So welcome everybody to this latest revision video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the AQA GCSE Maths of 2022 Foundation Paper 1 Revision List, focusing on the Algebra section. Now there will be a copy of the questions that we go through in this video that you can have a go at before watching this video and going through the answers by simply clicking on the link in the description. So before we get started, let's have a look at the Algebra section of this Foundation Paper 1 topic list. Now, out of all the possible topic lists on the advanced notice, I would say this is probably easier to predict what type of questions are likely to come up. I'm also quite surprised on the number of algebra topics that are going to appear on Paper 1, only because a lot of these topics do merge, and you can merge these topics into one particular question. So looking at the first one in terms of equations, linear. So here you're probably looking at being able to, or be asked to solve either a one-step, a two-step, an equation involving fractions. So for example, something like x over 3 plus 4 equals 10, let's say. You could have a double-sided equation. You could also have an equation involves negatives. Now, also, it could appear as a multiple choice question, and it could appear more than one. So just be wary of that. In terms of graphs, obviously looking at recognizing. So here again, recognizing the different types of graphs you can have. Now on the foundation, you need to be able to recognize a horizontal, vertical or straight line graph, a diagonal line, quadratic, cubic, reciprocal and exponential. Now again, it's important that you know what equation refers to the shape of the graph of each of those types. Next one, in terms of plotting, again, is being able to plot a graph. So here it's a case of substituting numbers into a table of values, either one that you need to create or one that's being partly given to you that you just need to fill in the missing values, and then obviously plot the coordinates, join the points up, and then making sure that if it is a curve, it's with a curve, and if it's a straight line, you are using a ruler and it is a straight line. Linear graphs, again, in the form of y equals mx plus c. So recognizing what those types of graphs look at. So I would say more likely you're likely to get asked to plot a linear graph. Usually when one's already been drawn, because obviously that leads in nicely to the intersection of lines. So recognizing, being able to work with simultaneous equations graphically, recognizing the coordinates or writing coordinates of where straight lines cross the x and the y axis. In terms of interpreting lines, again, want to be able to look at gradients, y-intercepts. Also look into time series, so revise that topic, and also when you're asked to see if a point lies on a line. So for example, this is where they may give you a coordinate and then give you a series of equations, or give you an equation and give you a choice of coordinates, and you've got to select the right one that either lies on the line or doesn't lie on the line, which I've seen in past papers. Next one, looking at formulas. So in terms of reasoning, this would be more likely to be a form of writing formulas, substituting values, and validity of values. Now validity of values basically gives you, like for example, in a formula you're going to have lots of letters in there, so it may be a case of, is it possible that a letter can equal this? Well, for example, an example of what I'm talking about here is, for example, if x was, I don't know, 3, and it gives you a y value of a decimal number, can you have a decimal answer? And that's the question that you want to look at. So that would be in terms of, are values valid for this formula? Is it a realistic option? Also, you could end up where if I use this number, it gives me a negative answer and I can't have negative length, let's say, so there would be an issue there. And then finally, looking at sequences, sequence rule to find a term. So this again is being able to continue a sequence, being able to describe a sequence by the term-to-term rule, the nth term, and patterns. So I would say in terms of what they've described there, a sequence rule to find a term, it may be a case of, here is a sequence, and they'll give you 3 numbers, and they may ask you to say, what is the 107th number in this sequence? And therefore it kind of encourages you to find the nth term and then substitute the correct n value into that formula to work it out. So now let's have a look at some practice questions to help, that kind of covers all of these topics rolled into one. Now, if you're wanting to have an attempt at these questions before watching the video as we go through the answers, then there is a link in the description below for you to click on and download, have an attempt at the questions, and then obviously you can check your answers. And if there's any questions that aren't making any sense, you can continue watching this video as I go through the answers. So looking at question 1, which involves linear equations, so it's asking us to solve 6x minus 11 equals 13. So our final answer needs to look like x equals. So here what we've got to do then is get rid of the 11. So I do that by adding 11. So that then becomes 6x equals 24, and then I divide by 6, so then x equals 24 divided by 6, which is 4. Then moving on to the next question, question 2, it says solve 4x equals 8. So here, again, if I just write 4x equals 8, so I want to get x by itself, so I need to get rid of the 4. So I divide by 4, and 8 divided by 4 gives me 2, so it's going to be option 2. Moving on to question 3, which looks at drawing diagonal lines. So here, and again, it's asking for the values of -1 to 3. So I need to make sure that the line passes through these two boundaries. So for this, what I need to do is set up a table of values. And what I need to do is pick 3 given values of x. So I'm going to go for 0, 1, and 2. So then substituting these numbers in again, so I'm going to do for this one, I'm going to use this formula, so y equals, so I multiply the x number by 3, work that out, and then take away 1. So 3 times 0 is 0, take away 1 is -1. For the next one, I've got 3 times 1, which is 3, take away 1 gives me 2. And then finally, 3 times 2, which is 6, take away 1, which is 5. So then what I'm then going to do is plot these coordinates. So I'm going to plot 0, -1, 1, 2, and 2, 5. Then plotting those, I get 0, -1, which, if I just move this down a little bit, is here. Then at 1, it's 2. And then at 2, it is at 5. And then what I then need to do is, with a ruler, is join those points up. Now again, what you need to do is make sure that your line does go through each of those points and that it does go through -1 and 1 as x values. So I personally would say is just go up to the sort of boundary of your axes that you've been given. So just go to the edge of the rectangle and then just go as far up. As long as it covers -1 to 3, then it's all good. Moving on to the next question. So again, returning to solving equations. So here I need to get rid of the 8 first. So I do that by doing the opposite. So I add 8. So I'm left with 3x equals 27. And then divide by 3, which then leaves me with 9. Then for question 5, it says solve x minus 3 equals 0. So again, we want to make x equals, so here we need to get rid of the -3. So I do that by adding 3. And 0 plus 3 is 3. So x equals 3, which is our fourth option. Moving on to question 6, it says P and Q are points on the line. Complete the coordinates. So for P, I need to substitute x equals 0. So when x equals 0, what I end up with is 3 times 0 plus 2y equals 6. Now 3 times 0 is 0, so I'm left with 2y equals 6. So y equals 3, so that's there. And then for the next one, here y equals 0, so I've got 3x plus 2 times 0 equals 6. So 3x plus 0 equals 6. So 3x equals 6, so x equals 2. So then the x ordinate is going to be 2. The next question then says draw the line. So what I now need to do is plot those points. Now I could do a table of values, but actually I've got 2 values there. So 2 coordinates. So I've got 0, 3 and 2, 0. So 0, 3 is here and 2, 0 is there. And then I just need to draw a straight line that connects those 2 points, remembering to go that it needs to cross -3 to 3. But again, whenever you're drawing a straight line, just make sure that it kind of goes, or just aim to make sure that it goes to the edge of the squared paper or graph paper, depending on what you've been given. If you didn't do that, then you could lose marks. So it's always worth just going right to the edge of your graph. Moving on to question 7. Again, we've got another solving equations question. So here I get rid of the 5. So I'm going to add 5. So I've got 4x equals 22. And then so here I've got 4x equals 22. So I need to divide by 4. So here I'm left with x equals 22 divided by 4, which is 11 over 2, which would be fine to leave as an answer. Or you can write it as a decimal, which is 5.5, or you could write the answer as a mixed number. So any of those 3 would be absolutely fine. Moving on to question 8, again solving these equations. These are just one step. So here I need to get rid of the 12, so take away. So x is going to equal 17. And then here, this one's a little bit tricky. So I need to do y, and so I need to divide by 0.5. So it's 20 divided by 0.5. Now for this, it's a case of either think of this question of how many 50p's make £20, or if you've got how many half pizza, how many halves would you have inside 20 pizzas, let's say, so how many half sizes would you have? So here we're going to be doubling, so it's going to be 40. Now with question 9, it says the straight line passes through the points of -1, 2 and 1, 6. Another straight line has the equation of y equals x. Work out the coordinates of the point of intersection of the two lines. So what I need to do first is plot the line that connects these two coordinates. So I plot those coordinates of -1, 2 is here, and 1, 6, which is here, and then I just need to draw a straight line that connects those 2 points. So if I just quickly try and do that, and let me just match them up like so, and then y equals x, which is this line here that I then need to draw, is basically 0, 0, well, let's not use a highlighter, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, etc. And then all I then need to do is draw a straight line that connects those 2 points, all those points up, and let me do that. And the answer is where those 2 points cross, and those 2 points cross should be at this point here, which is -4, -4. Moving on to question 10. So again, we've got another solving equations question, but again, this one involves a bit of a fraction. Now, again, the same thing I want to get rid of first. I want to get rid of this -9, so I add 9. So here I've got x over 3 equals, and it's going to be 21. Then I need to get rid of this 3. Now this 3 is dividing, so I need to multiply it by 3. So it's going to be 21 times 3, which is 63. Moving to question 11, again, I've got another fraction. So here, remembering that I need to get rid of this 6. What's the 6 doing? It's dividing, so I need to multiply. So x equals 12 times 6, which is 72, our fourth option. So moving on to question 12, it says this graph is used to work out the cost of £C to hire a drill for a number of days D. And the first part of the question is asking me to circle the correct formula for the cost of C to hire the drill. Now, as you can see, it's a diagonal line, so I've got y equals mx plus c. Now the plus c bit is, what's happened there, is the y-intercept. So this is where it crosses the y-axis. And where does it cross the y-axis? It crosses at +20. So I'm looking for an equation that has +20. Now you can see here there's only one equation that has that, which is our third option. Then question B then says that the cost of hiring a sander is given by the formula of C equals 60 plus 10. Now Dev hires a drill and a sander for the same number of days. The total cost is £90. Work out the number of days he hires the drill and the sander. Now for this, what we need to do is, well, the cost of the sander is 6D plus 10. And the cost of the drill, which we worked out as being 4D plus 20, and that all comes up to a cost of £90. So if I simplify the left hand side, I end up with 10D plus 30 equals 90. Take away the 30, which I end up with 10D equals 60, and then divide by 10, leaves me with the answer of 6 days. To question 13, it says here are the first 5 terms of a linear sequence. Work out the nth term. So here, as you can see, what we'll do is work out the difference between these two values. So here it's going to be plus 6, which therefore means I'm going to have 6n in the formula. The next thing I then need to do is think to myself, okay, what do I have to do from 6, which is what I've got from the difference, to get to the first term? Well, I need to add 3. So then my nth term then is going to be 6n plus 3. Moving on to question 14, so it's here, it says solve 2x plus 3 plus 4x minus 1, all divided by 2 equals 10. So for this, what we need to do is work it out separately. Now this one is challenging because obviously it's 4 marks, and it's just about doing the right things first. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this 3. So what I'm left with is 2x plus 4x minus 1, all divided by 2 equals 7. Then there's a couple of things we could do here. I could multiply everything by 2. So I'm left with 4x. Then this divided by 2 cancels that 2. So I'm left with 4x minus 1 equals 14. So all I've done is I've just multiplied everything in that equation by 2. So then from this I can then simplify the left hand side, so I end up with 8x minus 1 equals 14. I can then take this 1 over to the other side, so here I'm left with 8x equals 15, and then all I've then got to do is divide by 8, so I'm left with x equals 15 divided by 8, and you can write it as a mixed number if you wish, so that's going to be 1 and 7 over 8. Moving on to question 15, it says here is a linear sequence, and it says to work out the nth term. So here I'm going to work out what the difference is between these, which is minus 6 rather. So I'm going to have minus 6n in the formula, and then what do I need to do to get from minus 6 to positive 46? Well, I need to add 52. So the answer then is going to be minus 6n plus 52. Or you could write 52 minus 6n. Then looking at question 16, it says here is a linear sequence of 21, 23, 25, 27, and the question is asking us to circle the expression for the nth term of this sequence. So here you can see the difference is positive 2, so we're looking for 2n. And what do you have to add to 2 to make 21? Well, we need to add 19, meaning that the fourth option is our sequence. Question B says a different sequence starts A and then 2a minus 3, and the term-to-term rule for this sequence is multiply by 2 and subtract 3. So that means that the third term is going to be 2a minus 3. So if you multiply that by 2, I end up with 4a minus 6. And then if I take away 3, I end up with 4a minus 9. And then the fourth term is going to be 4a times minus 9 times 2, which is going to be 8a minus 18, and then take away 3 gives me 8a minus 21. Then it then says that the fourth term is equal to 35, so I need to make this 8a minus 21 equal to 35. So here then I've got 8a equals 21 plus 35, which gives me 56. So then a equals 7. Moving on to question 17, it says these expressions represent 4 numbers. The sum of the first 2 expressions is 36. Work out the median of the 4 numbers. So what we need to do here is first of all work out what x is. Now it says that the sum of the first term, so if I add the first 2 sort of cards together, it tells me that that's got to add up to 36. So then from this we end up is 5x plus 1 equals 36. So 5x equals 35, so x equals 7. So now if I substitute x equals 7 into each of these cards, well, I've got 2 times 7, which is 14, plus 2, which is 16. 3 times 7 is 21, take away 1 is 20. 4 times 7 is 28, take away 6 is 22. And 5 times 7 is 35, plus 2 is 37. So what I need to do is work out the median of those 4 numbers. So if I just set up my 4 numbers and order them, so I've got 16, 20, 22, and 37. My median is going to be between 20 and 22, so the answer then is 21. Moving on to question 18, it says that in the table ABC represent numbers. The total of each row is given. Work out the number of the columns in each of these. So here we know that 3a equals 12. So a equals 4. I can write 4, 4, and 4. So a equals 4. For the second one, I know that 2b plus 4 equals 24. So 2b equals 20. So b equals 10. I can swap each of those for 10. And in the last column, it says that 2a, which is 8, and so I've got 8 plus 2c plus 10 equals 30. So 2c plus 18 equals 30. So 2c equals 12. So c equals 6. So that's going to be 12. Then just adding those numbers up, I get 4 plus 10 plus 8 is 22. 4 plus 10 plus 12 is 26. And 4 plus 4 plus 10 is 18. Moving on to question 19, it says draw the line of x equals 2 on the grid. Now x equals 2 is a vertical line going through that number, so it's going to look something like this. Let me just make that a little bit neater. It should be a vertical line going through 2. For the next question, it says draw the line of y equals x. So for whatever value x is, y is going to be the same. So it's going to be, if x is 1, y is 1. If x is 0, y is 0. So it's basically going to be a straight line that cuts through each of those. So again, if I get a ruler and draw a straight line, and like I said, what you want to try and do is make sure that your line goes through everything. Now, if your line goes over the graph, that's not a problem. Just make sure that it's not too short. You always want to make sure it crosses any axis if possible, like so. Question 20 says complete the table of values. So here what we need to do is substitute our x numbers into this formula. So for this number here, I'm going to do 2 times minus 1, which is minus 2, take away 3, which is minus 5. For this one here, it's going to be 2 times 1, which is 2, take away 3 is minus 1. And for this one here, it's going to be 2 times 3, which is 6, take away 3, which is 3. So the coordinates I want to plot are going to be minus 1, minus 5, 0, minus 3, 1, minus 1, 2, 1, 3, 3, and 4, 5. So then plotting those, if I just move that down a little bit. So I've got minus 1, 5, oh, minus 1, minus 5. So I might need to go a little bit further down. So that's going to be here. Then I've got 0, minus 3. I've got 1, minus 1. And 2, 1. And 3, 3. And 4, 5. And all I then want to do is draw a line. Let's go for a more dominant color through those points that I've plotted. And what you want to do is make sure that your line goes past the boundary that's been quoted in the question. And in the question it says that it wants values from minus 1 to 4. Moving on to question 21. So here we've got a bracket. So what we want to do here is a couple of things you can do. So typically most students would expand the brackets and then go on to solve. So I take away 24. So I've got 8x equals 12, and then x equals 12 over 8, and then simplifying that gets 6 over 4, which is 3 over 2, or 1.5. An alternative you could do is get rid of the 8. So another method you could do is do x plus 3 and divide 36 by 8, which I'll be honest is not the nicest of numbers, but again definitely possible to do. So I've got, and 36 over 8 is 18 over 4, which is 9 over 2, which is 4.5, and then x equals 4.5 minus 3, which gives me 1.5. So again, gives me the exact same answer. So either I can write it as 1.5 or 3 over 2. Moving on to question 22. So again, a series of solving equations question with a factorizing one at the end, which isn't on the revision list, but again could creep in. So for the first one, A, it says work out the value of 5c minus d, where c equals 3 and d equals 7. So I'm going to do 5 times 3, take away 7, so that's 15 minus 7, which gives me an answer of 8. This one here I need to divide by 10, and 65 divided by 10 is going to give me an answer of 6.5. Now if I wrote 65 over 10 and then went on to simplify that. So that's going to be 13 over 5, and you could write it as 13 over 5, leave it as a fraction. That's absolutely fine. For question C is then we then need to take away 32. So here I'm left with y equals 11, and then factorizing this, well, a common factor between the two terms is 5, so it's going to be 5, and then in brackets a minus 2. For question 23, so again here we want to multiply by the 3, so we've got 8 times 3, which is 24. Then here we want to collect the like terms, so here I've got 3c plus 4c, which is 7c, and then 5d minus 2d is plus 3d. And then here we want to substitute into this formula, so p equals, and it's going to be 3 times 4 plus 5 times minus 2, which is 12, plus minus 10. A plus and a minus become a minus, so it's 12 minus 10, which is 2. Moving on to question 24, it says Jim buys a plant of height of 20 centimeters. The graph shows the height of the plant changes during the next 4 days. And the question is asking us to work out the formula of h in terms of n. Now for this, what we need to do first is we know it's a diagonal line, so it's going to be y equals mx plus c. Now the plus c part is where the diagonal line crosses the y-axis, which is at 20. So here I know that c equals 20. So the next thing for me then to do is to work out m, which is the gradient. Now to work out the gradient, all I need to do is pick two nice coordinates. So I'm going to go for, well actually, there aren't any nice coordinates in this. So I draw a right angle triangle. I then work out the height. So here this is going to have a base of 4, and the height is going from 20 to what I make out to be is 32. So it's going to be 12. So then here the gradient is going to be 12 over 4, which is 3. So then the gradient then m equals 3. So from this then I've got y equals mx, and m is 3, so it's going to be 3x plus 20. Then from this, what I then need to do is swap the letters. So I'm going to, instead of using y, I'm going to use h. So I've got h equals 3n plus 20. And there is my final answer. Moving on to question 25, which is the time series graph. It says the time students spent watching TV was recorded. The table shows the average daily time per student each year from 2012 to 2019. The time series graph is drawn to represent the data. The first 4 points are plotted, and the question is asking us to complete the graph. So here what I need to do is plot these 4 points. So at the next one, so let me just zoom out so I can see all those values, and typical, it resets. So let's just go back to that question. So here I've got 2016, it's at, let's get a thinner pen. So here at 2016 it's at 113, so the closest is going to be about there. Then at 2017 it's at 100, so that should be easy to plot. And then at 2018, it's at 90, and again, a nice easy one to plot. And at 2019, it's at 82, which is not too bad to plot. And then what I then want to do is, with a ruler, is join those points up. So let me just quickly do just that. And you want to point, so you're not drawing the line of best fit. You are connecting each consecutive point with a straight line. Now, even though it may look like one straight line, never take it for granted, particularly on a time series graph. So it should look something that looks like that. And then moving on to question B, it says use the graph to estimate the daily average time in 2020. Now 2020 is going to be at this mark here, so that's 2020. And then what you then want to do is kind of just use your graph to kind of estimate where you think that point's going to be. Now in the mark scheme, they would accept any answer between 70 to 78. So looking at my graph, I would say it's going to be roughly around about 72. And moving on to question 26. So it says, circle the equation of the graph. So this is just a case of recognizing what shape graph this is going to be. Now this shape graph is a reciprocal graph, so it's going to be option 4. With question 27, it says the two lines intersect at point A, circle the coordinates of A. So what I'm looking for is these two. Now at this point here, these two equations equal each other. Now you can see that both equations equal y, so that means that 3 equals minus 4x. So then making x the subject, I end up with 3 divided by minus 4 equals x. So this is the x ordinate, and the y ordinate is going to be 3. So I'm looking for a coordinate of minus 3/4 and 3. So that there is going to be my first option. Then moving on to a very similar question. So here you can see here that I've got both equations again equal to y. So I've got 3x is equal to minus 1. So this is one equation, that's the other. So again, if I make x the subject, I take the 3 over. So that gives me x equals minus 1/3. So this is my x ordinate. This is my y ordinate. So I'm looking for a coordinate of minus 1/3 and minus 1, which is our fourth option. Then moving on to question 29. So again, one of these represents a cubic graph. Which one is it? So I'm looking for now, with this, the two possible options are going to be A and D, because the B and C represent a quadratic. Now the next thing you then need to look at is this number here. Always look at the constant. Now you can see the constant is positive 2, which means that the y-intercept is positive 2. So the curve is going to cross our y-axis above the x-axis. So it's going to be option D is correct. For question 30, again, one of these graphs represents this. Now this represents a diagonal line. Now because the grade with a negative gradient, which means that the line is going to be going downwards, and it crosses the y-axis at positive 1. So I'm looking for a positive 1 y-intercept, so that's therefore going to be either A or D, and I'm looking for a line that goes downwards, so the only option it's going to be is B. Question 31, it says the term-to-term rule for a sequence is add 1 and then double. The first two terms are 2 and 6. Circle the next term. So I've got 2 and 6, so if I add 1 to 6, I get 7. And then if I double that, I get 14, which is my third option. Question 32, it says linear sequence starts 11, 21, 31, 41. I want to write down the nth term. So again, looking at the difference is plus 10. So I've got 10n is going to be the formula. Then what do I need to get from 10 to the first term in the sequence? We'll need to add 1. So the nth term is going to be 10n plus 1. Then with 33, it says the first 4 triangle numbers are 1, 3, 6, and 10. Right, to circle the next triangle number. Well, with triangle numbers, again, you can either draw the actual triangles, and with it being the 4th, it shouldn't take you that long. It says, and so the next one's going to be have 5, then 4, then 3, then 2, and then 1. But basically, another way of looking at it is the difference is plus 2, plus 3, plus 4, plus 5, and 10 plus 5 is 15. Moving on to question 34, it says the term-to-term rule for a sequence is add 4 and then divide by 2. The first term in the sequence is 36. Work out the third term. Well, the second term is going to be 36 plus 4, which is 40, divided by 2, which is 20. So then the third term is going to be 20 plus 4, which is 24, divided by 2, which is 12. And the next one says that the term-to-term rule for a different sequence is divide by 3 and add 10. If the second term is 60, work out the first term. So what we need to do here is do the opposite. So here, the last thing I did was add 10. So I'm going to do the opposite of that, which is take away 10. So that gives me 50. And then I need to, the opposite of dividing by 3 is to times by 3, which gives me 50 times 3, which is 150. Question 35 says the nth term of a sequence is 5n minus 2. Work out the third term. So I need to substitute n equals 3 into this formula. So I've got 5 times 3, which is 15, take away 2, which is 13. And with question 36, it says here is a sequence, and it says circle the expression for the nth term. So you can see there that I'm taking away 8. And what do I have to do to get from minus 8 to 90? Well, I need to add 98. So I'm looking for this formula, which I can't see. But if I swap these two things around, I end up with 98 minus 8n, which is our second option. Then question 37 says that a sequence has 3 terms. The term rule of the sequence is multiply by 8 and add 11. The first term is minus 1. Work out the third term. Well, the second term is going to be minus 1 times 8, which is minus 8. Add 11, which is going to give me positive 3. Then the third term is where I'm using 3, multiplying that by 8, which gives me 24. Add 11, which gives me 35. So our third term then is 35. It then says the order of the 3 terms is reversed. To make a new sequence, work out the term-to-term rule for this sequence. So here my sequence is going to be 35. The second term was 3. And the next term was minus 1. So for this, all I need to do is just reverse it. So here I'm going to be subtracting 11 and then dividing by 8. And then with question 38, it says here is a sequence 5, 8, 11, 14, 17. Write down the next number in the sequence. So you can see that the difference is increasing by 3. So the next term is going to be 20. And then says work out the rule. So here we're not asking for the nth term, it's asking me to describe the rule. So here I'm starting with 5, which is always really important that you do right, and then you are adding 3. And the next, for B, it says a different sequence, work out the nth term of this sequence. So again here, this is where I need to work out the difference. So here I'm adding 6, so I'm going to end up with 6n. What I have to do to get from 6 to 7, I need to add 1. So the formula then, or the nth term, is 6n plus 1. Then moving on to our last question, it says fill in the missing 2 terms of this sequence. So here, if we look at the difference between our first and second, so that's plus 3. The next difference is plus 6. The next difference is plus 9. And then what you should notice is that the difference is increasing by 3. So the next difference is going to be plus 12. 20 plus 12 is 32. Then the next difference is plus 15. And then the next difference is going to be plus 18. So if I then do 47 plus 18, I end up with 65. For part B, it then says the different sequence has the second term of 2 and a third term of 4. Write down a possible rule for continuous sequence. Now, there are quite a few possible options, but I would say that the most popular one is going to be, I would say, starting with 0 and then add 2. And therefore then the next 2 terms are going to be 0 and then 4 plus 2, which is 6. Or you could possibly have another rule, which is starting with 1 and then double, meaning that starting with 1 and then 4 times 2, which is 8. So again, there's a number, and you could also then even have a Fibonacci sequence. You could talk about anything else, that as long as the 2 numbers that you select there follow the rule that you've put in the first part, you should be absolutely fine.